Hey, if you're with me, folks, my internet stream is kind of slow from here tonight. I think everybody's home and probably got all their TVs on and everything's happening. So, I don't have the speed that I have from my studio. It's cranking. I'm on fiber optics when I'm back in Charlotte. So, signal flies out of here. But good evening to you. And thanks for emailing some questions to me. I've got some questions, and I just thought, I'm here by myself in this house. My wife is still chefing it up. So as you people pop on, I'm going to finish painting this one little crab. I started painting these things this morning on the show on this fun little drawing paper, and I've just had a blast with this. Okay, um, it's just 80-pound Strathmore drawing paper, and it has been so fun. Sometimes you just have to kind of wait out on the limb with one hand on the limb and the other hand on the saw. And that's what I have done. So glad to have you here. Let me get situated here on my stool. I'm sitting at the kitchen counter again, or as I said this morning, I'm painting on the island, the kitchen island. So just talked to Carol. She's finished with dinner and on the retreat, all that's going well. And so me and Augie, that's the dog that here. He and I have had a couple just little short walks down the street and went out and looked at the intercoastal a little bit. And I'm just chilling here with my paintbrush. But I went into my Facebook page on the post that I put up, and I printed off the comments. So I haven't even looked at them because, well, I looked at one because it made me think of a story that I wanted to make a note on. You'll see it. I'll hold the pages out here, but I haven't looked at all of them. I just hit print, and be fun to see what you have to say. Let me answer some questions. Hopefully some of them are about painting. If they're about something else, I'll answer that too. I put all kinds of crazy things on there. All right, so let's see what happens. All right, let me just throw a little purple shadow in here underneath this guy, and I still got my one of the things I still have, good grief, a lot of you people are piling on. Good evening, good Saturday evening to you. Hey, thanks for tuning on. And, you could be watching TV or a rerun movie or some commercials, or heavens forbid if you're watching news. Okay, we don't want to deal with that right now. I don't even know what it is today, and I got to tell you, I haven't watched it in a while. So there. All right, let me stop for a second, and I'll get to some of these questions. Let me just say good evening to some of you. Thanks for jumping on the show. Chris, thank you for being here. Patricia Deaton, thank you for being here. Yay, she says. Betsy Sobolewski, Andy, thank you for being home here. Zoe, there's Zoe. Good evening to you, Zoe. Annette, oh, thank you so much for looking forward to this. Jean, I just sent you an email or a note. Send me an email if you have other questions on the class. Hey, if you see, if the broadcast, the stream is a little slow and it might have to catch up, I just noticed that in the house the internet is really slow here tonight. This is not where I live. This is where I'm visiting, and so it is what it is. But when I get back home, I'm on fiber optic and it zooms. I'm not even having tea tonight. I've poured myself a cup of hot chocolate, pretending that I'm somewhere else. All right. We're melting here in Minnesota. I bet you are. Barbara Mayer, Lori Stanley, Handelmeyer Henderson. Hey, thank you. I always have fun with your name. Pauline Bold, Kim Sheets, Virginia Mann, Jessica Miller, from the full moon lit cornfields of Iowa. Yes, this is a snow moon, Bob. And I don't know if I mentioned your cornfields this morning, but we know a lot about Iowa for not living in Iowa. Isn't that amazing? I mean, we know about Grand Rapids and we know about Iowa City. I bought an airplane one time from Iowa City, had it shipped to Charlotte, North Carolina. It was a kit. Yes. Skeeter Powell, we're here. Good to see you, man. Mary Decoder, thank you for being here. Just signed up. I saw that just a few minutes ago. Thank you. Irma, I saw your question. Haven't answered it yet, but I'll find an answer for you in a minute, I bet. Anyway, Donna, thank you. May catch some of you in the questions. Howdy from the hops growing mountains of Veracruz. Man, if you're not growing coffee, you're growing hops. If you're not growing hops, you're growing flowers. Man, you are a growing man. And me, I haven't grown since I was 18, except I've put on a little bit in the girth department. All right, let's jump on this some for. Got a bunch of you on tonight, so let me just, Angela Surface. Hi from Missouri, which it doesn't look like you spell Missouri that way, but it's bothered me since I was a kid. But so what, right? But then again, I don't watch TV. It's such a waste of time. Hello from Savannah. Janine Mallet says, man, if my name was Mallet, I would love that because I have a hammer collection being a blacksmith. So I'd love that. Kelly Berger, how y'all signing in from Houston? Kelly, thanks for being on the show tonight. Dolores Bolin, Linda, and Lisa Haymaker, Mickey Hupp. I see a lot of folks that I see. Jason, ruin the evening. Feel like I should have a roving velvet slippers on. Hey, thank you very much. Velvet Elvis painting. All right, here we go. Kay Spencer, good to see you. Victoria Boyd. Kim Bursford. Hi from Smiths Ferry, Idaho. Good grief. Remote in the wilderness. What is the red that you mostly use? She snuck a question in immediately. I use probably 3 reds. I use Red Hot. All these are American Journey colors. So remember AJ and then remember Cheap Joe's Art Stuff. So AJ stands for American Journey. I started with these paints. I like these paints. I don't sell these paints. It's not like I even get a kickback on them. Oh, yeah, I get some art supplies from those guys. So truth be told, in full transparency, they put me in their catalog this year. I'm on page 52. And so, yes. And so if I needed some paper in a rush, well, if I needed it in a rush, I'd be in the same boat you are. I can't get it. But I have a store here. So sometimes I can go there and say, Megan, I'm loading up a few things. She goes, get out of here. And thanks for teaching a class. So yes, full transparency there. But there's not this a commission kickback. I'm an ambassador for them because I talk about them, but they know for the last 10 years or 12 years, that's all I painted with. So it's American Journey from Cheap Joe's. Those paints are light fast. Here's what that means. I don't ever hang your good paintings right in direct sunlight. Don't hang anything. Don't even leave your sofa sitting in direct sunlight. But I use Red Hot. I use Red Hot Mama. And sometimes I use a little Joe's Red. That's Joe Miller, okay? Joe Miller was the artist that literally his story is worth reading. That man has loved art all his life. His father had a pharmacy in Boone, North Carolina, right on Main Street, and they used to sell art supplies in the back. And that's really what Joe wanted to do. He wanted to be an artist. And I've had him on the show. He's a whiskey painter. He used to travel up into Bar Harbor, Maine, and he does these light water sketches and washes. I love this stuff. I met him. I've sat on the porch and talked to him, but I really got hooked on the color. My daughter got hooked on American Journey paints, and so all her paint is with that. So we love it. Do we think Daniel Smith is good? Yes. And HWC, yes. And Coy, yes. And Winsor Newton, yes. And Rembrandt, all those are good. My point is you just get used to what you like the feel of. And I'm doing this, the feel of that, and also how the boldness pops. And when I'm painting whimsical, I like the boldness. Okay, so that's the 3 reds that I use. All right, so here we go. Let me reach over here. And what I did was I just grabbed a few questions. So tonight I'm going to paint a little bit because I got some crabs to finish here. I did some more sketching of these. This morning I did some fun little crabs like this one with all these studies with the little colors. I just been walking out and I put some more of these on here. See how many did I do? I did 1. There's another one of those little, almost like a hermit crab, but he's not. He's just putzing around. There's 2. So I may take a break here and paint a couple of these. This one's pencil. That one looks like he's, that's a one with a huge claw. That may be, oh no, there's a hermit crab. I did a hermit crab. And the reason I got into this is because of my book. I'm working on a book while I'm down here, but very little because I'm trying to finish this video project. But I'm typing on odes from the ocean, poems from the ponds, and rhymes from the rivers. And it's all different creatures that I don't normally paint. Why would I paint things that I don't normally paint? Because I want to get better at painting them. All right. So thank you all for jumping on. Let's spend a little bit of time answering some questions here. I posted a picture of me modeling a jacket for Buffalo Jackson, my good friends there. And Tracy says the jacket looks better on. Well, thank you very much. Oh, and Randall Taylor Craven says you ended up getting the jacket. No, I did not. Okay. I need to open that garbage can over there. All right. Jeannie Ramos. Here's her question. She says, I used to feel guilty when I had chores to do, take time to paint or work on my music. My solution, set aside at least 2 days a week where I do the things that bring joy and relaxation. I found that the chores are unending and they will always be there. Yes. Okay, if I painted all day long, I'd get tired. But sometimes I'd be a better artist. But at the same time, I probably wouldn't, would probably be living in the dark because the power would probably go out. Okay. So there are projects that I have to do. Even though I'm an old man, I still work. I have no intention of retiring, but I still do projects. Sometimes they're fun projects, sometimes they're laborious projects, sometimes they're just creative as they can be. I get to write scripts and tell stories and shoot video, but it's a lot of work. You got to make sure you're aiming at the right target. Art is a lot freer for me. Let the creativity roll. I can just do what I want. And if I throw it out there somewhere and somebody likes it, I'll sell it. If they don't, somebody else will come along. I'll give it away. Who knows what will happen to it? Some of them I just pile up, and every now and then I just do a clear off the art bar sale and let them go because I don't need them. I can only put so many in my own house. But having 2 days a week is good to do that if it works. I find, here's what I find. So these are all my opinions. This doesn't mean you don't have to do any of this stuff. You can do like the TV, you're out of here. I find that I do better if my art changed when I started painting a little bit every day. What I mean by a little bit, 20 minutes to a half hour. And of course now I do, even when I'm not on the air, I'll do 20 minutes in the morning. I'll sit down and I'll do a journal sketch of something. Maybe crude, maybe rough looking. It may not even be finished, but I'll do something. And so that helps me a little more than just knowing that I got to go. Now, blacksmithing is different because I have to set up the shop and all that. But Jenny, if that works for you, yeah, we're going to get to the end of our lives and we're going to say, I wish I'd have spent more time with people. I wish I'd have spent more time on art. I wish I'd have spent more time with music. Sometimes I'll just put music on and I'll just go down a hole with a book and a notebook. And yesterday, 2 days ago, I had edited almost all day. And I sit down with a book I'm reading right now by Mako Fujimura, who's an artist. It's a heavy read, but I decided just to read 2 pages. And in those 2 pages, I just found so many things that I wanted to just read over and over and over. So that was refreshing. All right. If this system works for you, great. See you tonight. The coat looks good. Oh, I've painted more since I started watching, but my biggest problem is coming up with ideas. I bet that's not going to be the first time I see that tonight, but coming up with ideas is then read more, look at more art, watch painting. If you are a chef or want to be a chef or you're a cook, you have to do 1 or 2 things. You have to watch cooking shows, and you'll see some things that you go, there's no way I'm going to do that like that. Okay? Carol and I went to the taping in New York of a Martha Stewart show, and it was like, and people were sending things in and flying things in, and we were watching it move around from segment to segment. I'm going like, man, this would drive me batty. And then we like when Bobby Flay's cooking, we like the freedom of just saying, I think I'll put this in there. I think I'll put this in there. Bobby's going to do something. So we watch a lot of cooking shows, and then we will take a note and go, write that down. And so she'll have a notebook there and she'll go, I'm going to try that little piece right there. Where do those ideas come from? Don't paint things you don't love. Just because you see a painting and you think, oh, wow, I bet I could do that. Maybe, but I'm going to keep saying this over and over in our time tonight. Start small, start simple. Okay? Big ideas are hard to come by. Little ideas are fun, okay? These were fun for me, okay? This is a fun idea. Just getting a little piece of paper and just sketching a crab. If I get this wrong, do you know what? I just wad it up and throw it over there. I've lost only my time, but I learned something in that mistake. Mistakes are not bad. Coming up with the idea, if that's hard, then look at more things. It's a numbers thing. If you're looking at 25 items and you can't come up with an idea of that, I'm not talking about just stealing the idea, but I'm talking about taking pieces of it and making it through your filter, your visual voice. If you can't find that, then look at 100 things. Or change the style one day. Just go look at somebody else's art. Soon as COVID's over, and it's going to end so you can go out, okay? I'm going to drive back to Charleston, and I'm going to go there on a Friday night, and we're going to walk back through the gallery crawl. and we're going to look at what other artists are putting on canvases and in watercolor paper. And we're going to see what they're doing, and we're going to look at some of it, and we're going to go, wow, are they thinking like an artist? Or are they just painting the things that they've seen others do? Or, I mean, it's like roosters. I started painting roosters. Did it bother me that there were 20 million other people painting roosters? No, I didn't care. I don't need to be better than them. I just need to put my spin on that rooster because it's part of my identity. I told stories about roosters. I wrote a story about a rooster. I'm writing more stories about roosters. Roosters are part of my family. And so for me, the style and the idea comes from through here, and it comes through my stories in my past and what my mom said. Okay, I hope that helps. The ideas will be tough. Liesje, Liesje Alexander. I'll probably mess that up. Liesje. And I may pronounce it Liesje. Who knows? I'm sorry I'm mispronouncing your name. That's a cool name. I just don't know how to say it. You say problem, anxiety, pure and simple. You get anxious. The only way I know to make you feel comfortable in plowing is to get behind the mule. Okay? You're going to go, oh, shoot. It didn't take him but 15 minutes until he said it. That's why that 20 minutes a day is important. Just get back there. If you notice, John Robert Small's on the show tonight, and he has an easel set up, and he went through a series of painting coffee cups. For a while, he was doing some fashion dress. I was watching, and then he started on some coffee cups. And then he started on another coffee cup, and then another coffee cup. And I don't know how many he did, but the more he did them, the better he self-corrected himself. And the better I thought they got. I thought the whole visual aspect and what he was looking to put shadow on and the contrast of colors. And so for me, the way I break that anxiety is repetition over and over and over. I got to tell you, I traveled for 25 years as a singer, songwriter, storyteller. Okay. One of the other things that I did, take my guitar backstage before I walked out with songs that I had written, songs that I had come up with. I would get so many butterflies in my stomach that I would need to go find a trash can and just almost lose my lunch. I mean, I'd want it sitting there just in case I would just be like, oh, okay, I got to go. And my wife was backstage one day and she said, are you okay? And I go, no, excuse me just a second. I ran outside and I came back in and I had heaved so hard that my eyes were watering. And she's going, are you sick? And I go, no, I'm not. I'm just nervous. And she goes, are you kidding me? You've been doing this since you were 19 in high school, or even that, 17 in high school. I go, I don't care. It still comes. But the way you break that is you just get behind that mule and you start to plow. I sit down in the silence of my studio, and paper is cheap, people. It really is. It must be, because they still print phone books and send stuff at my house that are this thick. And then they send me a coupon that says, or a little note that says, well, if you'd like for me to put this online, we'll quit wasting trees. And I'm going like, would you get off your high horse? It's not my problem. And so I tell them, send it to me, because I need the paper you're wasting to paint on. So anxious, anxiety may be coming from somewhere else. Maybe you don't feel like you have time to paint. Maybe you feel too rushed in life. Then clear off your schedule somewhere else. Maybe you just have to get up an hour early, make a cup of tea, and start with small little pieces until you feel some victory. Okay? That's my suggestion for that. That sound like a column like in the local newspaper. Elizabeth Garrett, thanks for sending a note in from Garrett's Antiques and Indian Shop. I showed you the turquoise thing. Love those people. They're sharp. They know their stuff. And they get clothes from Buffalo Jackson. Awesome. Linda Bacon Lawless says, moonshining. Do I know anything about moonshining? Heck yeah. Did you know that in 1983, I built a grist mill? There's a video on here somewhere. I'll post it again someday for you to see. I was in my 30s, and I built a grist mill, water wheel, and we started grinding corn. So we had all this corn mashed up. And so just for fun, because it was a vacation resort lodge, people were coming in. We said, we should have a moonshine still. And we're in the western North Carolina mountains where it was moonshine country back in the, the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s even, and still probably in the 70s, but it was dying out then. And so I said we should make it so people could at least see how it's made. Now I'm a teetotaler, not by belief. I just hate the taste, but I've seen it, and I knew what it was, and I knew about cooking corn, and I also had a molasses mill, so I made molasses, and we had bees, and we had chickens, and we had a working farmstead, two Belgian workhorses that were just phenomenal, and so my blacksmith shop was there, so people would come, and we had a little wooden house, little house there that had a wood cook stove in it. So we would serve hot ham, biscuits, and tell stories on Wednesday night on a big rock. And the rock was bigger than this kitchen island. It was probably about 8 feet in diameter, about 3.5, 4 feet across. And I'd moved it down out of the mountain with a big old front end loader. And so that was our stage. So we thought, and so everybody who drove in from Florida and from all over the Southeast and even from the North, they'd come down and they go, "Where's the moonshine still?" And we would say it's behind the mill because we don't want to carry the corn too far. So I went and had a copper steel made, and I read. Oh wait, it'll come to me in a second. I'm answering these cold turkey here. I read lots of books, but we didn't have internet then, so I went to the library. The Foxfire books on old time moonshining. So we set it up like an old time moonshine still. So I didn't want to get in trouble with the law. So here's what I did. I had been working in the film industry, and I had my license in pyrotechnics, and you had to get those licenses through the ATF in Atlanta, alcohol, tobacco, firearm, because I was building some cannons and welding and doing some things for props and films. And so I sent a note to them and said, "Hey, I need to have my license to make a moonshine still." And they go, "Are you crazy?" And I go, "No, I'm doing it for this." And I sent out everything and sent them photos. They okayed it and sent me a license. I can make 10 gallon a week of moonshine, quote, gasohol, if we ran it, put it in the mowers and the tractors. So anyway, had a bunch of college guys that worked for me. They thought it was going to be the greatest thing in the world at the time. And after they did about 2 runs of moonshine, it was so much work. They're going like, "Look, we got to find out a way just to put like some whiskey down in there so that when people want to smell it, they can smell it. And it just looks like it's working because this is killing us, man." But I did have my license to make moonshine in 1983, 84, probably 85. And so I know the process. All right. So I've ever made moonshine, Linda Cook, Landon Ham? Yes, I have. Julie, I did sell the crabs from this morning, but I'm working on some more, so I'll have some more. And somebody else wants some, so I said I'd do some originals. There's just these little fun crabs that I'm working on right now. Shay Sims says, "I had a hard time drawing and painting originals." Okay, I can look at a drawing or painting, and I can draw or paint it. They never look like the original, LOL. But I can do that. I'm copying to learn, but I have a hard time doing my own original. Okay. I think you heard me say this a minute ago. Start small, start simple. Okay? Start with something that you can master and something that you're interested in. So think about 3 things that you really love. Is it coffee cups? It's a great thing to start on. Is it fruit in a Steel Life bowl? There's a peach over there that I'm going to eat in a little bit. Is it a peach? Is it some pears or fruit bowl? Or is it flowers? Is it bud vases? Is it, what is it? Something that you could say, you know what, I could master that. I could keep painting it. Don't start with a piece of bread because bread is hard to paint. And don't start with clear glass because clear glass is hard to paint. So start with something that's easy. Something that's solid, but you can leave a little white space in it as the light hits it. You don't want to just make it so dense that you miss the color, but don't make it too detailed. So go to art books again and look and see what people are doing. I tell my friend Chip to paint eyes, 50 of them. And after you paint that 50, paint 50 more. He wants to get better at painting eyes, and you just have to constantly do it. So In this case, find something that you're interested in. My daughter was architect, interior design person, so she was drawing plans for movie theaters and doing all this stuff. And then one day, out of the blue, she said, I'm going to go back to some of my watercolor roots and I'm going to just start painting some things. And she found out that she has this, she doesn't paint from photographs, she doesn't paint from what she sees anybody else do, but she may go for a day when they're out in Colorado on a trail and carry a journal or a camera. She may clip a couple shots of just different flora, fauna, just all sorts of from mushrooms to different flowers, and research them a little bit and then paint her own style on that. So don't worry about painting it exactly like the thing you're looking at. There's already one of those. You paint what you see. Can I say this more clearly? I'm not sure, but I'm going to say it again so that you understand what I'm saying. If I look out at the intercoastal right now, and the full moon's coming up over the beach, it's pretty amazing. But if I look at it, I'm on this side, the intercoastal right now. I'll see a couple boats in the lights out there that are on. Okay, if I set out to make a busy painting of that, I would just be like, wait, I've got my camera, I can just photograph it. But if I just took the front part of a boat and the light on the water, that would be the image that's imprinted in my mind right now. And what if I just painted that? So whatever it is, just take a section of it. You know, you ever seen an artist do this? Sometimes people will take a piece of paper and they'll cut it like a little picture frame. Maybe it's just like a little picture frame. Can't do it here because I don't have my scissors with me. But let's say you cut this out right here. Okay, so let's say this is cut out and I can see through that. So I'd hold this up and I'd go, okay, that's the whole picture. I just want to paint this much of it. So I would look through that square, or maybe I'd go, ooh, here's what I started doing. I'm just going to take this and I'm just going to paint that much of it right now until it becomes mine. What is it about that scene that you love? When you find a magazine picture and you want to do a painting of it, that can be as original as ever. But maybe you just want to paint a detail. Like this morning, I painted this thing. If somebody wants another one of these, it says, read me a story. It's just the head of a rooster with some books. It just came to me right then. I didn't want to paint the whole rooster. I had a narrow piece. I started him like this. I was finishing up the show, but I thought, I'll just make him sort of like profile here, like the bust in a library. That's what came to me. Okay? All right. So just keep looking, but find things that you love to paint. All right? I'm a thrower. Have you noticed? As an artist, I need to really start creating art. I'm good at copying a photo, but that's not really what I want. I want to create. I just answered that pretty much. Find 3 things you love. Just do one of them. Okay? I like old bicycles and parts and gears and cranks. So believe it or not, I wanted to draw something one time. I wanted to draw a steam whistle, just a brass steam whistle. And I bet I drew that thing 75 times until I figured out this is what it looks like. This is the round curve in that. Go back to basics sometimes of just shapes, squares, triangles, cones, okay? Ellipsoids, loops, squares. Go back to those basics and just make it work for yourself, okay? In regards to selling, this person says, I'm afraid, I think this is Debbie, I'm afraid and not knowing where to begin. Don't worry about it. Let the trailer follow the horse, okay? Start putting your work out there that you love. Don't put work out there that you don't love. Don't ever put out a painting that you feel embarrassed about unless you're looking for other people to say, help me with this. That's completely right. But don't put out a piece that you have to apologize for. Let me say that a different way. A piece that you apologize. Oh, I wish I meant to use more orange here. And you go, well, then why'd you put it out here? Use more orange. When I send a finished video to someone who I've been working with, like I've got a project coming up, if I send them the video and they go, well, did you not see this here? I'll say, not only did I see it, I left it because of this. So sometimes I will say, everything in this video has a reason that I put it in here, left it done or left it undone. I looked at the whole thing. I had it right here. I didn't just make a mistake. So if you feel like you're sending out a piece of art with a mistake and it bothers you, if it doesn't bother you, then you put it out there. I didn't sell a rooster for 3 years. I was painting paintings like crazy. I had drawers full of roosters. I still have some of the first ones, and I'll never sell them to anybody. Some days when I'm gone, my kids will go, "Oh my gosh, he was terrible when he started." But here's what'll happen. Um, One day, some people were at our house, and this lady said, "Oh my gosh, I love that rooster. I would love to have a painting like that." And I handed it to her. She said, "What do you mean?" I said, "It's mine." She said, "You painted this?" She said, "No, no, 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 no. I want to buy this painting." I said, "No, I'm giving it to you." She said, "No, I want to buy the painting. I want to know that I bought one of your first paintings." And I'm going like, "Seriously?" And she goes, "No, I love this. It's whimsical. It makes me laugh. It reminds me of my grandfather, something he would say." She bought it. Well, about 2 days later, I went, "That felt pretty good." And then some other people started asking for my art, and then asking for my art, and then one thing led to the other. So don't rush that process until you're ready to let them go. Okay. I paint every day, started a year ago, and have been selling my work. So Jean Mallet, she's doing that right now. She says she's selling her work. So people are starting to see it. She's feeling good about it, and she's feeling like it's finished enough and sending it out. And she's saying, "I love this piece." Sometimes I do this, not in a prideful way. You guys see me do this on the show lots of times. I'll look at a little painting like this and I'll go, "I like it. I like it a lot." And you're going like, "He's crazy." And you go, "No, no, no, this is fun. This was not only fun to sketch because it was just lines. It was fun to see it come to life. It's this shell that's empty and this crab's going like, 'See you later.'" And it reminds me of my painting that I want to do for my poem that says it's a hermit crab and he's got a house for sale or sublet. But that's kind of where I was going with this. So that's what I'm working on. Uh, Biggest issue is to prioritize time to paint, only short time daily. Otherwise, my major hurdle, overworking a painting. Okay, so we talked about time already. If you can find time every day, get up earlier, go to bed later. Just find some time that you go, "You know what? That sink will be right there when I'm done with this." But right now I have this pen. I'm going to put it to the paper and I'm going to spray a little watercolor on paint on here and I'm going to splatter it and I'm going to go, "That made me smile. Whew, that was my therapy for today." You know, people do horse therapy and they have counselors and they go to counseling service. Painting is that for me. It like refreshes me. If it's making you mad, then maybe you need to change directions. Maybe try another medium for a while and then come back to it. The point is, if you know in your heart, if you know in your head, or my friend used to say, if you know that you know in your knower that you're a maker, you'll come back to one of the arts. It doesn't just have to be painting. This applies to quilting. It applies to writing. It applies to metal work like I was doing today. It applies to, Jason's on the show, drafting. This applies to John Robert Small's flower gardens, okay? You got to put the right flowers in there. By the way, there's a show on Disney Plus called um, Floret, Floret, and it's about a business that sells flower seeds, and it's been her dream for 20 years. Great story, great story. Floret. Okay. Um, Quit overworking your paintings. There, answered that. Just stop. What's the rule? Put the brush down and back away from the easel. There's no magic button that goes, You're putting on too much paint, but you kind of want to go, "Oh, what if I just touch? What if I just do one more little thing here?" And then you go, "Oh man, I just messed that up." When you get to that point where you feel like you want to do it, lay the brush down and then come back a day later and see if you really miss it or not. So give yourself, you can always add it. It's hard to take watercolor out. So quit overworking it. Quit just getting in there and just pushing paint around until you create a mud pie. And that's what happens. You'll just have to learn that. Okay? That also helps you if you're painting smaller and simpler because you haven't ruined a 3 by 4 foot piece of paper or canvas if you're painting with oil and go, "Man, I paid a lot for that canvas and I just ruined it because I wouldn't quit." So Start small, and you go, at least I've only got 20 minutes into this painting and not 20 hours. Okay? All right. Um, yes, Yvette, if you signed up for this class, we're going to be talking about watercolor, but we're going to be talking about pen and ink also. After watching you this morning, I signed up. Thank you, Debbie. I appreciate that. Love your jacket, Sheila. I didn't keep it. I just did a modeling shot. They called for an old man and said, "Hey, would you come and do this?" I said, "Sure." They said, "Can we come to your wood shop?" And I go, "No, let's go to Renfro's Hardware because I want to get in the back of that wood shop. That is the coolest place." He's such a great guy. I still have trouble being loose in my paintings. Sometimes Sabine says it feels like I'm playing it safe. Sometimes you are. You're just afraid that you're going to make a mess and ruin something. The only way to get past that is get on the bicycle, take the brake off, and start going down the hill. You know, you may crash on the bike, but if you crash in watercolor, at least you're not going to wind up with a broken leg, unless you're painting on top of the house or something silly. Let's see what you said. Your dad, I found some sketches by my dad. Woo, how cool. 9-year-old. Wow. Found some by my mom. 2 by my grandfather. They're all astonishingly beautiful. So there is, as I said, potential, but I don't want to drop the ball. Okay, well, that's going to make you anxious if you feel like you're holding the weight up. I assume that your granddad's probably left this country or this world. So you're not going to disappoint him, and you're not going to disappoint parents if you're trying to paint. Um, if they're not living, then you're not going to disappoint anybody. So stop disappointing yourself. You're doing it. You're bringing it to there. Um, I want to change that, and I don't know how. So one day, just decide that you're going to just sit down. Remember a few weeks ago when we were doing just color swatches, and you were finding art in those. Go back and do that for a week and a half, and just let colors run until or go back and work with your pens until you know what all of your tools do well. There's nothing worse than not knowing, having the right tool to do the job, or not knowing if you have the tool that it'll do what you need it to do. Okay? Um, she says, I'm still staying behind the mule. I love it. Kim Sheets says, thank you, Kim, for your comment, your compliment. Believing if you don't quit believing in yourself. Okay. Believing in you if you don't quite believe in yourself. Um, yeah, so she's answering to Donna. That's awesome. You know, you start believing in yourself and you'll do it. Hey, how do you think like an artist? How do you think like an artist? You approach the desk saying, today I'm going to do something that I'm going to give to someone and they're going to love it. It's going to be a simple little cupcake with a candle. Boom. Done. It doesn't have to be a photographic work. Susan Peters says, I started small. I do milk cards. I ask a little for them, getting people to buy from me. I give cards away to family, friends to cheer them up. Bingo. Start giving some of your art away and let it start to speak for itself. Susan, it's a great concept. Whiskey painters. Dolores says, talk about the whiskey painters. Well, I think there's 50 at any time in the world. There can only be 50 in this elaborate club. I'm not in the club, by the way. You have to be nominated in and fall in a waiting list. It's not one of my goals in life. One is because I'm really not a whiskey drinker, but I do paint out of tea. Whiskey painting, if you want to look it up, it's really fun. And there's 2 associations. One of them is the Real Whiskey Painters Association, and one is Whiskey Painters of America. I do own an original Whiskey Painters painting. Joe Miller sent that to me as a gift. Uh, and I happened to be at an art gathering one day, and I was doing a blacksmithing training. And everybody in my blacksmith shop was in their 60s and 70s. They were cool people. And so I had my little, not this one, but my little Altoid box, and I flipped it open one day, and I was sitting there with my journal, and a lady walked by me. This was 4 or 5 years ago, and she said, you must be a whiskey painter. And I said, no, but tell me what one is. Maybe I need to be. And she said, well, some of the early American painters and some painters, even European painters, they would go in and in their pocket, they would always carry a little palette of colors, and they would carry a small brush, and they carried small pieces of paper in their, their herringbone jacket pockets. And they would sit down at the bar and they would order their drink, whether it was an old fashioned or whatever it was, and they would take out their brush. And while they were imbibing in the drink, they would dip it in and they would paint something. And they had to paint two of those, and one was given away. And one, well, they didn't have to at that time, but if you enter into I think it's in Ohio, is where the office is. I don't know why, because a lot of things start in Ohio. Most restaurants that I know started near Columbus, but uh, so it's a fun thing to read about if you want. But the whiskey painters are people who, just as they were sitting there. So today I left my show this morning. Well, you guys were on the show, and I said I'm going to go see a friend I met 30 years ago. I haven't seen in 20 years, and he told me a story that really touched my heart. He said, "You remember taking me to see Les Miserables?" And I said, "Oh my gosh, Rick, I don't know if I remember it or not, but I vaguely do, because you and I did some things together when I moved here." And he said, "No, we went." And he said, "You told me it was the greatest play you'd ever seen. You'd read the book." And he said, "I didn't know anything about it. And after watching that, I got involved in it. I've seen it again, and I've read it over and over." And he said, "I kind of want my life to be like Jean Valjean." And so now I'm retired from DSS, and I've helped children, and now I've found other ways to do that. And I'm going like, and he goes, "So you inspired me." And I went, and this sounds prideful, but I'm going like, whoa, he's holding on to something that I didn't even know. And it was so fun to hear. So whiskey painters would sometimes just give a painting away to someone sitting in the bar. So today he said, "My wife has two paintings by this artist." And I go, wait a minute, that artist sounds familiar. And he said, "Well, he has a gallery in Boone or Blowing Rock and Charleston." I go, "I know who that artist is. I've been in his place." He said, "Here's a picture of him." I go, "Yeah." And he said, "But," I said, "Well, hey, she's got to have one of mine." So I took out a little painting, a little piece of paper. And while we sat there finishing breakfast, I opened this up, got my little brush, and choop. And so the waitress comes over and she goes, "Wait a minute. I know who you are. We have your paintings back on the wall in this restaurant here at the diner." And I go, "Yeah, Barry's a good friend." And I had breakfast with him the other day. But I painted him one and took it home. And so my point is this. Give away some of your art to do that. So that's the whiskey painters. Hard time coming up with captions. Yeah, the only thing there is read more, find stories, tell stories. What did your mom say? My mom had a saying, and here's what it was called. It said, "I can't get over the style tonight." Maybe some of you have heard that. Okay. I don't think I can get over. You're not going to be able to get over the style tonight. I'm so tired, I can't get over the style tonight. I'm going like, what does style have to do with being tired? Until one day I was in the library and I'm reading a children's story to, I think, one of my kids. This was back before internet. I'm in this little town, and it says, "Johnny came up," or Miss whatever came up on the stile. And I went, "What?" And I saw it. The stile were steps that went over a fence. I had no idea. I had no idea that was called a stile, that you could build a set of steps going up and a set of steps going down. And people, instead of opening gates and having to take the time, they just walk up the step and down. It's called a stile. So my mom would say, "I can't get over the stile tonight." And so I started thinking, what other stuff does she know that I don't know? And so I started listening to my dad's stories more. And I started listening to my mom's stories more, and just the sayings that they had. So most of my captions are from my own past experiences, which has been fairly diverse because of all the, I just couldn't keep a job, all the jobs I've had and all the work that I've done and all the things we've been allowed to do. And we have traveled like rich, very wealthy people, and we're not. We're blessed. But we have people, my first trip to England was because I came down off the stage one night after doing this story. I was telling Rick today, I was doing this storytelling thing. I had my banjo on the wall, my fiddle, my guitar, and I left the stage and I came down and I was just saying hi to some folks. I'd done a thing that was called Off the Wall, Michael Hahn, Off the Wall. And I'd finished my story and I told a story about Uncle John's fiddle. And I hung the fiddle back up, and a man came up named Tom, and he said, "Man, I love your storytelling." I said, "Thank you, Tom." And he said, "Do you know the story of Les Miserables?" And I said, "I've been reading about it." This was in 1985. And he said, "You have to see that play." And I said, "Well, It's not even going to be in New York for a couple of years, and I've never even been to New York yet. He said, I said, but if it goes, he says, no, 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 no. Listen, you need to see it in London. And I said, what do you mean I need to see it in London? He said, no, you need to see the original cast of this play in London. And I said, well, now it's pretty funny. He said, my wife and I want to send you and your wife to London to see this play. Would you go? And I'm going like, I tell him what I tell everybody. Well, I'm married to a gypsy. She keeps one bag packed at all times. He said, you want to call her? And I said, and we didn't even have cell phones then. I said, no, 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 I don't have to call her. All I got to do is, he said, when do you want to go? And I said, our anniversary's coming up in 3 weeks. He goes, okay, we'll have everything ready for you. So I went to their house, and they had the plane tickets, the theater tickets, the dinner vouchers. They had even a backstage pass. They had everything lined up for us to go spend a week in London and see 4 major plays. I saw Colm Wilkinson and Linda Eder. I saw the original cast. I saw Chess with Michael Crawford, the original cast. And I didn't deserve it. It was grace. So people have been given to me like that all my life. So you can do that for other people. That's what you can do. Art does that. Instilling people that they can be creative does that. Okay? I'm about to get on my box here. Irma says, my drawings look like kindergarten. I can't draw well. This is the page that I found and printed it off before I went on live. And so I made a note here. She says, my drawings look like kindergarten, and I don't have an imagination to start things off. Okay. Where am I going wrong? Hey, wait, Irma, I got a painting for you. I want you to see. Take a look. Okay. Do you see the signature on that? Mm-hmm. You see that? You see the signature on this? Uh-huh. You see the signature on this? Uh-huh. It looks like kindergarten, doesn't it? It's all Picasso. He loved it. There's a great story about one time Picasso was standing in his gallery and he's looking at a painting. And you need to see my face. He's going like, this is how the story's told. And a man comes into the gallery and he sees Picasso there and he wants to sound like he knows something. He goes, oh, sir, it's just magnificent. I love what you've done with it. It's just brilliant. It's just magnificent. And Picasso sort of looks at him, looks back at his painting. He goes, no, it's all wrong. It's all wrong. And he says, what do you mean it's wrong? He said, the eye's all wrong. The eye's all wrong in this painting. And he says, well, fix it. I mean, you're the artist, fix it. He goes, impossible. He says, why is it impossible? He goes, I don't even know where the eye is. I love that story, whether or not it's true. So it may have been one of these. Which one is the eye? I don't know. My point is, you can never judge sometimes your own art and how it'll land on other people. It may just be the palette and the design and the color and the shape and that lost eye that they're looking for. So don't quit if you love it. But I'm going to tell you what I told some folks earlier, just a few minutes ago. Find something small and simple and just start doing that over and over and over until you get confident. You know, maybe you don't look at anything other than one coffee cup that you love and you start sketching that cup and you fill up a journal of sketching that cup and you sketch that cup from this view and from this view and from this view and from this view. And the handle on the right, the handle on the left, the cup tipped over, the cup set in a saucer, over, back and forth and upside down with liquid running down the side over and over until you just say, I got that. And I'm confident in that. I'll bet you out of 25 of those paintings, you're going to find one that you really like and go, I like that. Then what you do maybe is you frame it and you put it somewhere in your kitchen and it reminds you that, yes, I can do this. That's a confidence builder. You with me? That's a confidence builder. Okay. Thank you for beautiful paintings. I have a question. You say get ink pens that have what end? The end is needle point. Needle, Needle. Don't get them unless you love them, but I think you might love them if you try them. If you get a regular ballpoint, it's just really kind of fat and it wants to roll over the paper and it crushes the paper. This pen This pen is a needlepoint. This is an '05 Pentel Energel '05. And then I use a Pentel Energel '07. Both are needlepoint. Needlepoint. Okay. Yeah, Texas. A lot of people from Texas on this show tonight. I love it. Jason says, what's Jason say? Oh, I lost it. Oh, yeah, you went through that. Jason says, biggest challenge. I wrote it right here because my printer. Jason says, biggest challenge in making art. Wait. I know what I was going to show you. Take a look at this. Augie, the dog's barking. Look at this. Look at this painting right here. Okay, this is not a photograph, people. This is a watercolor painting by Bob Timberlake. Okay. In the 70s, Bob Timberlake was one of my favorite artists. I set out one day to paint this house right there. It was 1982. Yes, I painted before 2000, but not seriously. I just had a cheap little flip lid, school grade thing of watercolors, some really rotten brushes, almost said something worse, but just crappy brushes is what I was going to say. Just no shape to them, just fat little fluffy ends, no good. You want a brush that has a purpose and a shape. So spend money on good paper, good paint, and good brushes. So basically what happened was I set out sketching this lightly with a pencil, and then I started brick by brick and little bitty brush and putting in things. And then it was a log cabin, but brick by brick on the chimney and log cabin. I started the tree, and I thought, I got to make the tree limb go out here. I spent 2 months on and off painting this thing. Do you know, it's 1982. I still have it. It's never seen the light of day, but it's in top of a closet on a shelf. I know exactly. I could go to my home in Charlotte right now and pick it up. And I went, wait a minute. What am I doing painting that? I just like it. I'd like to live there, but I don't need to paint that. And it didn't teach me anything. And Bob Timberlake's already done a great job. So I'm not going to paint like Bob. So I just put it away for a while. So I thought maybe painting is not for me. And I left it for 30 years. Because I was a blacksmith and I loved it, and I was drawn to the flame, and I had my music going on. I just didn't have time to put into it until my world changed. And then I had time to go 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour a day and sit down. And then I fell in love with painting a loose kind of crazy crab one morning, and out of this little palette right here with a brush. And my wife said, that's good, but you should paint roosters. St. Augustine, 2 weeks later, we were in Florida. I painted a shrimp, and she said, that is really good. And I went, wow, but you should paint roosters. You've heard me tell this story. She said, it's our namesake. And then I started reading about roosters and learning more about them. And a man had asked me to write a dinner theater show about chickens. And I wrote a show called the Smoky Mountain Institute of Barbecue Big Time Chicken Show. And it was about a chicken that played a banjo, and he got called away to Nashville. But he didn't make it in the business. And it was true, because I'd sent a lot of my songs and I'd gotten some calls, but I didn't make it in the business. It just didn't have it. And it doesn't mean I wasn't good at traveling and singing. It just wasn't, I just didn't have it. I didn't have that it factor, but it wasn't meant to be for me. And so I came back, and farmer says, well, we can let you stay here on the farm, or we can make chicken and dumplings. So I had to change the ending of the story. So for me, repetition, Jason, has been that thing that has taught me confidence. And I also have a rule that's not coming out in the Noodle Doodle Fiddle Piddle book, but it's this: if one person's done it, another person can do it. If Yo-Yo Ma learned to play the cello, I could learn to play the cello. Would I be as good as Yo-Yo Ma? Heavens no, because I think God gifted his fingers and his ears a certain way. Will I ever play the fiddle like Alison Krauss or have that angel voice? No. But that doesn't stop me from blessing people with what I can do. Okay? So that has given me the confidence to say, I don't have to be as good as Bob Timberlake. I just have to be as good as I can be. Look at this. This is a Bob Timberlake painting that used to hang outside my office door. Yes. That is a painting, and that's the shadow of a tree limb on the log cabin. And those are geraniums in the window and those white pots. I mean, and the glass in the window. Look at it. So I look at that and go, okay, okay. If I worked at it every day, look at the realness of the wood. If I worked at it every day for about 2 years, now with what I know, I could probably do that. But, but Bob's already done that. So I want to tell my stories. That's not my house. That was Bob's house. You see the difference? Okay. So stay in your lane, people. That's what I want you to say. Let's see. Denise says, dang, I thought for sure you got the jacket. Denise, I didn't want the jacket. I wanted him to pay the model. But I like those guys. In fact, I have to send them an invoice. I've done 6 voiceovers for them just recently. I love being the voice of Buffalo Jackson. Uh, and I like talking, and they sell good products. And I have a leather bag from them. There's one laid on the table over here now. So they do some good stuff. And it's not cheap, but it's great quality stuff. Okay. I think that's my last question. Woohoo! Look at that. Hey, this was fun. I don't get to do that often where I just get to sit and talk. Well, I talk all the time, but I'm usually painting and telling only 1 or 2 stories. And so, tonight I got an offer to teach and do a basic class on sketching. Chris Whitaker, that's fantastic. And guess what? As people start to see your work, it'll come around. So don't rush it. Don't push it. Hey, you know why you stay behind the plow? Do you know why? The mule pulls the plow. Do you know you can't push a plow? You can pull a rope, but you can't push a rope. So don't push it too much. Just keep pulling your weight every day of 20 minutes, 30 minutes of doing something that you love and watch what happens. Your art will change. It may not change overnight. It may not change in a year. I painted 3 years of little journals before my roosters started to get a feel for how they came about. 3 years. Okay? My investment was time. I paid a lot of money one time for a class that I took. And I learned an amazing amount in that time. And so you keep chipping at it a little bit at a time and you will get there. Okay? So uh, I'll look and see if there's some other questions on here, but thank you for sending them ahead of time. Uh, Dear Rue. Somebody said my dad made moonshine in the 50s at the farm. Yeah. Hey, listen, one time I met an old man at the barbershop, Mr. Davis. This is a true story. Weaverville, North Carolina. And the barber would set Mr. Davis up. And so I went in one day and he said, hey, Michael? I said, yes, sir. And he said, Mr. Davis wants to know. Mr. Davis was sitting right there. He said, Mr. Davis wants to know if you'd loan him his chains, you'd loan your chainsaw to him. And I said, well, sure, Mr. Davis, you need it? And so the barber answers again. Well, Mr. Davis says he needs it pretty badly. And I'm saying, look, well, you got a tree limb down over your power lines or something, or it's falling your driveway? Well, Mr. Davis says, no, it's for his garden. And so I'm doing this thing where I'm thinking, why won't Mr. Davis talk to me, you know? But it's part of his shtick. He was a funny old man. And I'd seen him, and I'd even stopped and picked him up one time, but he didn't say much. And so here he is sitting in the barber. He's not even in a barber chair. He's in a chair, and I'm in a chair. The barber's cutting someone else's hair, and everybody's sort of in on it but me. And he basically says, Mr. Davis needs to borrow your chainsaw because, well, okay, Mr. Davis, tell him. He said, it's my corn. I've got to use it to cut down my corn. And I'm going like, Mr. Davis, I've got a machete if you just need to chop the corn down. He says, no, machete won't cut this corn. It's huge. And I said, come on, it's huge. He said, well, the problem is I have let it get too tall and it's in the little garden slot next to the house, too close to the house. And the corn now is so huge that I'm afraid that any day the roast-nears, he called them, are going to come down and pierce the tin roof and knock holes in my roof. And I got to cut down the corn. And so those are the people that I grew up with. And so then the barber would set him up. So I'm just going like, oh my gosh, I've just been had here. Okay. And it was that folklore of one-upmanship. And he'd say, but what'd you do with all that corn? He said, didn't you have that whole 4 acres down around Flat Creek planted in corn? He said, yes, sir, I did. Had that whole 4 acres planted in corn. He said, well, that creek is raging. He said, how'd you get that corn out of there? And he'd tip his hat up and he said, son, we drank it out. And I went to see him when I made my moonshine still, because that dude was brilliant at making moonshine. And so I thought, he's going to tell me things. And he goes, you know, you're going to wind up in jail. I said, no, Mr. Davis, I got a permit. And he goes, what kind of permit? Pushes his hat up, scratches his head, and said, let me see that thing, you know. And all right. And then do it 500 times. Aaron does beautiful florals. Yes, she does, Jade Few. Good to see you on the show, my friend. Haven't seen you in a while. Wonder if he'll do a starfish. Probably not. But that's funny. That might be good for my book, but I don't know. I'll think about it. I'll put a note if that was for me. Biggest issue, prioritize time. Okay, overworking a painting. I think we may have talked about that. Okay. Let's see. I'm a special ed teacher, so I really need the relaxation. Yeah, and thank you for doing that with kids. Thank you for the extra amount of time and patience you have to spend with those kids. They need that, and it's great for their brains. That's so fantastic. Skeeter Powell is in that world, and he paints with people like that all the time. I love it so much. He's on the show. Okay, so the class is coming up on March 10th, and you can find it at roodoodles.com. I will send out a notice when you can, talk about several things if you want gifts coming up for birthdays or whatever. The book, Noodle Doodle Fiddle Piddle, I'm supposed to get a proof this next week. We shall see. I see it when I see it. But when I get the first proof and send it back, then I'll probably do a pre-sale. So if people want that little book, it's the book that Pat Brooks has done the artwork on. And it's the rules, just like Stay Behind the Mule and Start Small, Simple, Quick, and Loose. Just things that'll remind you, put the brush down, back away from the easel, why those things are important to me in the process. Pat and I shared that book. She kept up with those things during the show. I didn't even know I was making a book until one day I called her and said, we should write this down. And then I'm working on the Robots book. And so it's being laid out also at this time. And it's roosters and small farm equipment. It's going to be a coloring book for kids on how to do robots, but they're robots. So the the phrase is robots. I have copywritten robots, and I'll have a website for that. And then the book I'm writing on now is more poems and more artwork for Odes from the Ocean, Poems from the Ponds, Rhymes from the Rivers. I don't know what it's going to be called. That's his working title for me right now. And then more cups. My Roo mugs and bug out bags are not printed yet, but the bags just arrived at the printer yesterday. I got a Amazon note that said they've been drop shipped. He'll start printing those for us. And as soon as they're available, I'll just put them back on Roodoodle's site and they'll pop up. Okay, so that's how you can buy those things. Thank you for helping me out so much. That really helps me keep the wheels on my wagon and gives me time to paint as a professional doing other projects. And I've got a major one. I'll probably watch a little church here tomorrow by myself in the morning. And then I'm probably going to edit all day long until who knows when. My wife has a long date tomorrow. And thanks for signing up for the class. I hope it's going to be fun. And come prepared to be confident, think like an artist, and let's just have some fun. We're going to do it. And thanks for joining me on Roodoodles 857 right here. Roodoodles live on Friday. What night is it? Saturday night. Oh my gosh, I don't think I've ever done a Saturday night before. So thanks for all the sharing of the show. Thanks for putting it out there. And don't forget to look up Whiskey Painters. It's really fun to see who they are and what they do. They've got some great rules, and they meet like once every few years. John Robert Small says, "Wait, I'm gonna tell you a story. Ready?" John Robert says he wouldn't be surprised if I pinched the Queen Mum while he was in London. I'm going to tell you, when I was traveling as a storyteller, I told a story for the Queen one time. So there you have it. I told a story for the Queen. Well, she said she was the Queen. That's really how it goes. No, what it was she said, I'd finished a story, and this lady stood up in the audience and said, if you're a storyteller, I'm the Queen of England. So I took her at her word. So now I can say I told a story for the Queen of England. So there you go, John Robert Small. There's your story. I love it when a story feeds a story because I didn't even know you're going to say that. That's how the mind works. You just store all that stuff up there, just those random thoughts, and they go down a trail and then they connect and fire. So I love it. All right. Appreciate you guys. Oh my gosh. John Robert Small, you're funny, man. Okay. Susan Peters, thank you for your emails, and thank you for being on the show. Brenda Dow, Kristen Klingman, thank you. Entertaining my family tonight. Hey, hello to the whole cotton picking family, Kristen. You guys stay safe out there because y'all are wild people. I know you ride and you rope and you hustle and you bustle and fly around. And Miss Carla says, your silly stories fuel my desire to write. You know what? We all should do that. In fact, I'm going to challenge you all to work on a painting this spring. We should maybe put this into the class maybe in March. I challenge you to do a poem art or a story piece of art that you can share with someone, a grandchild, a child, a neighbor child. I'm thinking of something that hooks them in just some little story and say, you know what this story is about? This is when I did this. Or maybe it's making a Martin house out of a gourd. Or maybe it's planning the first time you had to go cut a rose to put on someone's grave. I'm talking about both ends of the spectrum. Everything doesn't have to be humorous. It can have heart. I spent 3 hours one day in Chattanooga, Tennessee, inside a wood shop with a man who was carving horse heads for the merry-go-round that has a calliope in it in the park in the big park in Chattanooga, Tennessee. It was 100-year-old German carousel, and they were rebuilding the animals. And I went in there and got to pick up a mallet and a chisel and tap away at this. But I was telling a story that night, and the word is poema. It's a Greek word, poema, and it means masterpiece. Because I said, this guy's a masterpiece. And I said, can I use this for an illustration tonight? And he looked at me like, what are you saying? I said, I want to take the horse head with me. And he goes, I mean, it's like this big, you know? He goes, really? And I go, I'll bring it back. Tomorrow, I'm coming back tomorrow. He goes, okay, can we wrap it up in this blanket? So we wrap this thing up and I drive it up the hill to Lookout Mountain where I'm telling this story. And I unwrap it and those people see what he's carving out of this wood. And so that's a story. So I might do a head like that because I have a poem that's called One Little Pony because to some child he made a difference. Do you see what's happening here? This is why I keep telling you stories, because your art is a story. What's one of the rules? Everything is fodder for a story. Everything. All right, I'm out of here like a herd of turtles. All right. That was better than watching a movie for me. Thank you for letting me be entertained by entertaining you. No kidding. That was fun. All right, we might do it again sometimes. Blessing to all of you. I'm out of here. Kaboom, kaboom. Thanks for the comments. Thanks for the views. I am history, as they say.